Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Beth Enslin, and I'm honored to welcome you to this month's webinar. The topic tonight is Metabolic Reset. Clear the clutter that's draining your energy. Perfect timing as we start the new year. We have a really great presentation for you tonight. So whether you're watching us live or catching us on the replay, we hope that you really enjoy what is going to be shared, and we hope that you really take some good tips home. So I'd like to start and introduce you to our presenters tonight, Kate Carpio and Joanne Gallagher. They are both board certified health and wellness coaches. So Kate, I am going to turn it over to you now.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So here's the thing. If you started the year motivated, but are already tired, foggy, maybe a little like you're not getting a whole lot of traction, you are in the right place. Tonight, it's not about fixing your metabolism. It's about clearing out what is quietly draining your energy. January often starts with this great motivation, but what drains people, it's not the lack of effort, that's for sure. It's really trying to do everything at once. So that's why this conversation matters tonight.
So think of your metabolism like your phone battery. If you have too many apps running in the background, notifications, tabs you forgot about, things constantly pinging, it drains faster, even if you're not actively using them. My daughter usually grabs my phone from time to time and starts closing out the tabs. And she'll say, Mom, you have so many open. No wonder you only have 10% battery left. So, most people don't have a broken metabolism. They just have too many background drains.
Yes. And that's what we see over and over. It's not that people are failing, they're leaking energy, but in very specific ways. So we're going to talk tonight about three energy drains. So let's talk about the first one, chaotic routines. Here's the thing, your body loves predictability, not perfection, but this rhythm. And when meals or sleep or movement, and okay, so for movement, I want you to think of this as synonymous for exercise, but without the intensity. All right. So when our meals and our sleep and our movement changes constantly, your nervous system, it is staying on high alert. So think of this like flexibility is like traffic lights. You can speed up, you can slow down, but there's still a system that's keeping things moving safely, right? Chaos is when all of the lights are flashing at once. Nothing's broken, but man, it's exhausting. Okay. So the goal, it's not to have this rigid schedule. We're looking to add simple anchors that your body can rely on. So we're going to talk about how this actually plays out in real life. So the first is morning chaos. So think of this as one day you wake up early and you're feeling productive, and then the next day you're rushing around, and then another day you're answering emails before you even stand up. Ringing a bell with anyone? Here's some other examples. Maybe one day you have breakfast at 7 a.m., and then the next day you completely skip it. Or you have coffee first thing on some days, and other days, you wait until after food. And here's the one that I love because this was so me back in the day. I'll just qualify that. Having your alarm times that are all over the place, and then hitting the snooze button thinking, if I don't get a shower, can I sleep a little longer? That used to be so me. And here's the thing, your body doesn't know when the day actually starts. So it's staying on this high alert.
So talking about, morning chaos and really full day of chaos, for me, my husband used to call our mornings the 7:30 a.m. shuffle. So I used to wake up and think of about 10 things that I needed to do. And it was kind of paralyzing. What do I do first? Everything seemed to be floating around. So most days I would end up not accomplishing too much. So I have learned, and it's taken me a while, to put my tasks into a container. And some people may call it buckets. So before my meetings were scattered all day, I would eat whenever there was a gap and movement squeezed in if there was time. And quite a few times I didn't make the time for any type of movement. So what's really happening is that it's not that you have too much to do, it's that your body never knows what phase of the day that it's in. So let's talk about putting in buckets of time to combat the daytime chaos. So now my morning bucket consists of water. I drink water before I do anything. Then I have my breakfast. And then I'll answer my emails. I'll look at Facebook and LinkedIn. So really my social media postings and comments. And then midday, my bucket, I'll have my lunch, I'll have my meeting scheduled and follow-up tasks. And then my evening or late afternoon and wind down bucket, I'll run some errands, I'll have my dinner, I'll do some reading and really getting ready to wind down.
And that's such a great routine, right? From the complete chaos that you had, and then you were able to learn to put them into, what you called buckets. Some people call them compartments, or however those words work for you, right? So we talked about the morning chaos, and then Joanne just talked about the during the day chaos. So now let's move on to evening chaos. Now, some of you may be thinking, ah, there is no chaos in my evening routine. And you may be 100% correct. Some may be thinking, oh, yeah, evening chaos. That's me. But some may not recognize some of these examples that I say actually as chaos. So that'll be interesting, right? Let's see how these sit with you. So one of them is screens up until you go to bed on some nights. And other nights, you're able to shut down early, right? And trust me, I completely get it because this can completely depend on what's actually happening during the day, work commitments, family commitments, right? Not, no judgment here, but it's just not consistent. How about falling asleep on the couch? Honestly, this doesn't happen to me because I typically don't watch TV. But for those who do, falling asleep in front of the TV some nights, and then other nights you're in bed and your mind is wired. It just doesn't want to stop. That's a little chaotic. And here's another one. Your bedtime hours vary, right? Think weekends. Sometimes that is throws everybody off schedule. So here's something that you may not have considered. Sleep doesn't start at bedtime. It starts with the signal that the day is ending. So if any of this sounds familiar, nothing is wrong with you, right? It's just your body craving a little more rhythm. So this week, what we're going to be asking you is not try to fix everything, but maybe choose one anchor. And that's going to look different for every single person. For some, that may be having breakfast even on most days. How's that? Or maybe having the same walk time. A quick reminder, when I talk about a walk, think of this as a 10-minute walk. Okay. And if I could make a suggestion, if you're going to do it around dinner time, do it after eating. Okay. Maybe even before you do the dishes, 5 minutes one way, 5 minutes back. How's that? And then another anchor you could do is maybe incorporating the wind down cue, right? And that could look different. That could look like a cup of hot tea. It could be getting your clothes out for the next day, or it could be writing down 3 things in a gratitude journal.
So Kate, here's the thing. Once routines are all over the place, the next thing we usually see is how our blood sugar swings. So big blood sugar spikes are like flooring the gas pedal and then slamming on the brakes. All of a sudden, you're in bumper to bumper traffic. You get a burst of energy followed by a crash. So, blood sugar swings feel like a roller coaster, up, down, unpredictable. And stable blood sugar feels more like an escalator, steady, boring, but reliable. So I have I've worked in the food and beverage world for most of my career, and when working in country clubs, I know I had many blood sugar swings throughout the day. I would start the day with running late, usually with coffee, and I'd grab 2 donuts on my way into work. And then I'd have a few meetings before lunch service and totally miss staff meal. So I'd grab another cup of coffee, and at the end of lunch, I would pick at staff meal, which was usually some type of pasta or chicken tenders and fries. And then at 4, I would start smelling some freshly baked desserts coming from the bake shop. I'd go and I'd grab a cup of tea and I'd sample the desserts, usually a few cookies. And it was very chaotic pattern that I created. So, gosh, I would, coffee at breakfast, long stretches without food, and then grabbing something quick and sweet. And I really thought I was extremely productive, but my energy told truly a different story. And what changed everything for me wasn't eating less, it actually was eating more consistently. So, protein at every meal, not letting myself get overly hungry, and really planning for the long days. And I would be remiss if I didn't add hydration. Totally plays a huge role. And I didn't realize how often fatigue really was dehydration showing up as hunger. So, I was having coffee before water, forgetting to drink when I was busy, afternoon crashes tied to low fluids. So now I have water on my nightstand and I don't go into the kitchen for my coffee before I drink 16 ounces of water. Truly a big win for me. So what I do, I was in food and beverage. I grab, 4 to 6 bottles of water and I put them on my nightstand and I make sure all the labels are facing the right way. And then I know I'm set up for a big win. So, we're not talking about being perfect and having perfect meals. We're talking about order. So protein first, fiber next, and add before you subtract. It's not about starvation or the diet world. It's really about being healthy and supporting your body. So let's now
Yes,
talk about what happens when blood sugar is all over the place. We call it decision making. It becomes really exhausting.
it is. And that's the third drain, right? And we see this all the time. It's the decision fatigue. Energy, it's really what, when you have all these decisions, it's costing that energy, right? So by the end of the day, most people aren't tired from working. They're tired from deciding. So think about this. We think of what to eat, when to move, when to rest, what's allowed today, right? All of these things. So, Joanne mentioned earlier, right, that decision fatigue, it's like her phone that her daughter had to grab and close all of her tabs, right? It's those 30 browsers. I mean, I can look at my computer and I have 30 browsers open at all times, right? Nothing
Mhm.
crashes, but everything just runs a little bit slower. And, I see this all the time with our clients and, with my own family. By the end of the day, we don't want to make one more choice, right? Sound familiar? You decide, like, all right, I'm going to choose takeout because it's easier than figuring out what to make. But even then, that can be a challenge. What do you want? Where do we order from? Has anybody had those discussions? How about skipping the movement or the exercise because it requires deciding, should I go for a walk? Should I go to the gym? Right? One of those things. And then, the another one is, let's see, I think this one's really the most common one, but snacking because thinking just feels hard. And so this whole thing may seem like a foreign concept, but default actually equals freedom. They're not boring, it's actually freeing. So let's look at it this way. If you have options, right? Breakfast, two, right? It takes a lot of the decision. You're not going, right? Two breakfast options just for a little bit, two lunch options, two movement options. But I'll tell you what, you only get one wind down routine. That's what we're going to say. Try to stick with one. Okay. Because less deciding equals more energy. I know there was a show, it was something that I watched, I read, and Joanne, you may know of this, or people
Mhm.
watching or listening may. But It was about there was a person, actually some people, that they had the exact same things, color shoes and the shirts and this their the shoes, the shirts, the suits, everything, so that they never had to decide what to wear, so that they could focus on more important things. And I say this because I know me, right? And has anyone stood in front of their closet or inside their closet looking at this substantial rack of clothes and go, I have no idea what to wear. Right? That's what we're talking about. I know on Sunday evenings, I used to pick out 5 things, and this is what we're going to wear Monday through Friday. It just made it easier because these drains, they stack, right? As you just saw, the chaotic routines lead to blood sugar swings, and blood sugar swings lead to decision fatigue. It's this cycle. So here's the thing. It's this fix. It's not to do more. It's to simplify.
So, Kate, you just described me not knowing what to wear and just staring. And really, time goes by so much quicker then. It's almost like I'm wasting 15 minutes trying to figure out my clothes for the day. So now I have 5 or so blouses to choose from, with either black or blue pants. But I will tell you that my husband's side of the closet has always been very simple. White polo shirts after white polo shirt, and then khaki pants all lined up, maybe 10 pairs. And then every so often, one day he'll put on a navy polo shirt and gray flannel slacks, and I'll say, who is that? Because I'm so used to him being in a white polo and khakis. So, if you're comfortable, drop in the chat one decision that drains you by the end of the day. Maybe, meals, workouts, bedtime, or something else.
Yeah, because these are all things that we see with clients, right? You're not alone in this, right? We're all in this together. Meals are a big one for sure.
Yeah. So let's shift gears and talk about what actually supports metabolic momentum. So we don't reset everything, we stabilize. So if our part one was about what quietly drains your energy, our part two is about what actually gives it back. And this is where people often expect a big reset, but that's not what we're doing. We don't want to reset everything. We want to stabilize. So in this slide, it's consistency over intensity. So metabolism responds better to steady input instead of dramatic swings. So let's talk about food consistency. So eating roughly every 3 to 4 hours instead of a long gap. Protein showing up most days, not perfectly. There's a lot of guidance out there that says how much protein people should eat. And I've got to tell you, it's a massive swing. So we like to ask people to shoot for 100 grams of protein as a general guideline. And then, like Kate talked about, having the same thing for breakfast or lunch, 2 different things on a rotation. And your body learns what to expect. And when it knows food is coming, it really stops panicking. And then let's talk about movement consistency. So a 10 to 15-minute walk daily versus one intense workout. The same movement window, even if the duration changes. Moving even on tired days. So intensity feels productive, and consistency actually changes your metabolism.
So this is where people get stuck, right? They think that if they can't do everything, it's not worth doing it, right? I mean, I have consistently heard over and over, 10-minute walking is going to do your body great service. And I got to tell you, I would do 100%. I was doing the mental eye roll thinking, are you kidding me? Because if I'm not going hard, if I'm not giving it all out, it's so not worth it. And that's exactly what Joanne is getting at. It's more important to do 10 minutes a day than to do one 60-minute bout that has you exhausted or worse, hurt.
Yeah, that's right. And consistency might just be hitting your protein, your water, and your steps, not perfection.
Yep. Yep. That consistency, it actually builds trust within your body, and that's important.
So we'd love for you to pick one habit that you can repeat daily for the next 7 days, not forever, just 7 days. And we've mentioned these earlier. So how about same breakfast, same walk, same bedtime routine?
Right. So now let's talk about the second builder that supports metabolic momentum, and that is reducing friction. Okay. There's a quote that says, if something feels hard, it usually won't last, especially in real life. So if you're going food friction, what does that even mean? Right? We're going to talk about it. And it says it on the slide, right? Make it easier. So if you have no plan, the default is to go to snacks or skipping meals. Healthy food exists, but if it's not prepped, you're probably not going to eat it. If there's too many rules, mental exhaustion. So friction doesn't mean that you lack discipline. It means that the system that you're using is working against you, right? So let's talk about a way to combat that. Habit stacking. Has anyone heard of Atomic Habits by James Clear? See some hands, right? Habit stacking, it's attaching a new habit to something that you already do. So here's some examples. A protein shake with your morning coffee, a walk after lunch, stretch after brushing your teeth, water before checking your email, right? So because if checking your email is something that you always do, now you go, I'm going to check my email. Nope, water first, right? I'm brushing my teeth. That means I have to stretch. So you're going to combine those two different things. One thing that really worked for me in my daily routine was that I would do push-ups off of the kitchen counter while my coffee was brewing. And I was doing this in the office. Yeah, it actually drew a lot of attention, which was not my game plan. But before I knew it, there was a line of us doing push-ups off the counter while my coffee was brewing. And that was actually kind of fun. So, but here's the key. You don't need motivation when the habit is already attached, right? So every day I was putting that K-cup, because that's what the office had, into the coffee pot, starting it. That was done. So I just added one thing, right? But here's something that's super important when you're thinking about this and your habits. What could you do even on your worst day, right? Not your best day, but your worst day. So thinking of my push-ups, right? While my coffee was brewing, if I was feeling super tired or sluggish, remember I didn't have my coffee yet, still brewing, um, or if I just wasn't feeling my best, at a minimum, how many could I do? And well, I know the answer is one. So in my head, as long as I did one push-up off the counter while my coffee was brewing, that was a success. And you know what? I never did only one. I was doing at least 10 at a time. But here are some other examples. Can you commit to 5 minutes of movement, right? Just something small. And what can you attach it to? One protein forward meal. And if you're going, what does that mean? That means pick a protein, right? And then you can have other food with it, but don't go, what can I have in my potatoes? No, let's do it protein forward. And for those who find water to be a challenge, can you increase your water by 1 glass, 8 ounces, right? And this is the important thing to remember. It only works, if it only works on your best days, it is not a sustainable habit, right? So since we started this second builder session talking about reducing friction, it's not doing more. It's removing some of those obstacles.
Yeah, so my game changer was the water on my nightstand, truly.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the third builder, and that supports metabolic momentum, and it's protecting your energy first. So we're going to talk about three things: sleep, mindset, energy, and surroundings. So sleep, recovery, and boundaries, they're not luxuries, they're metabolic support. And boundaries aren't walls, they're guardrails. So let's talk about some real life energy drains. We talked about this already: inconsistent bedtime, screens late at night, catch up sleep on the weekends. And sleep is where metabolic repair happens. Sleep really is nature's nurse. So it's not optional. You really don't get an award or a badge for getting under 6 hours of sleep. And there have been a lot of studies out there that show 7 to 9 hours is where you should aim for. So let's talk about mindset energy. So this includes things like all or nothing thinking, constant self-criticism, feeling behind all the time. That mental load costs you energy, even if nothing physical is happening. And lastly, let's talk about surroundings. Cluttered kitchen, harder to eat well. Phone always nearby, constant stimulation, no quiet moments in the day. So your environment is either supporting your energy or draining it. So maybe choose one boundary this week. Pick one. I'll give some examples, but maybe you can drop yours in the chat. Phone off at night, no meetings during lunch, protecting your bedtime, and saying no to the one extra commitment. And someone once told me, if someone's asking you to do something, and add another commitment to your schedule, really think about it and if you want to do it, it's got to be a full body yes. So really important to ask yourself that.
I love that. That full body yes is definitely something that I'm focusing on this year. Super
Hmm.
important.
Hmm.
So, what we're talking about here tonight, this is not about reorganizing your whole life. It's like clearing your desk, but not to make it perfect. It's just to create space because your metabolism, that's about energy, and clarity creates momentum. And these small resets, they matter so much more than the big overhauls. So we talked about what drains your energy, chaotic routines, the blood sugar swings, and then that whole decision fatigue. What am I going to do? What am I going to wear? Right? But we talked about how we can build energy, having consistency, reducing the friction, and actually protecting your energy first. So you don't need to do all of this. One shift, one just little shift, that can actually change the direction, the whole trajectory of where you're going. So if you walked away with just one anchor, one stabilizer, one boundary tonight, that is momentum.
Hey, this was so much fun tonight. Thank you so much for inviting me to be one of the speakers. Really, really enjoyed it and loved seeing everyone tonight. And it's so easy to get caught up in the busyness and excitement of a new year. And we are hoping that you walk away with some tools and ideas to assist you to have a better week ahead, which leads to a healthier, happier you.
Yes, yes, this is awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. And if this conversation helped you spot where your energy is leaking or you'd like some support in creating some simple, sustainable habits, we'd love to continue the conversation with you. We'll send you the recording after tonight's webinar. As Beth mentioned in the beginning, don't hang up yet. Stay tuned because we do have, I think there's a little gift or two. But I also wanted to let you know that Ramona and I will be teaching next month, and that's heart smart metabolism, blood sugar, stress, and the real drivers of heart health. It's super important. And that's going to be on Thursday, February 19th. So as a reminder, you need to register. Maybe Beth or someone can throw the link where they can register into the chat. If people wanted to register, that would be awesome because we will see you soon. And until then, keep showing up for you.